then I'm gonna try. There we are. Okay, because I can see myself. Yeah, because I've had that happen with somebody else,
Yes,
and it's not like, and I don't know why, but it's just an Instagram thing.
it is. It's an IG thing. They haven't fixed it, and I don't know why, but
Yeah, so I'm so sorry for everyone that part one of this interview will be only in your memory.
right. Well, I think you have
Oh,
24 hours to keep a copy of it.
oh really?
Yeah.
So will it? It will save.
Yeah, it will save. I think it's in your archive for like 24 hours. You have to like grab it, and then it gets deleted.
Okay, so then I've got to figure out how to get that. Okay.
Yeah, we can walk you through that. Yeah.
All right. Well then, yeah. Post this. Like, let's get the, let's get through this, and then we'll walk through. Yeah, because I
Yes.
definitely want to get that up because I think yeah, because I would love to make sure that we don't lose that.
Right.
Um, oh yeah, absolutely. Because glorious things were being said, but you were talking about we were talking about like recovering and like become like wanting to be who you were before, and you started to say something that I'm sure was glorious and wonderful, and then yeah,
Then IG cut us off. Yeah,
exactly.
I because right, and I know a lot of survivors have this. You don't really remember who you were before, like you do, but you don't. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
I would get those comments all the time, like, "Oh, I miss the old you," or "I miss," and I'm like, I don't really know what you're missing.
Mhm.
So it wasn't ever I wanted to recover back to who I was. It
Mhm.
was more of how do I discover who I am?
Mm.
You know what I mean? How do I discover who I am and what my disabilities are and how do I adapt to those? And now how do I thrive and how do I associate with society and others? That was my journey. That was my focus of how do I discover who I am now? Mentally, emotionally, physically, and how does that human fit in this world?
Mhm.
And so because I here's the thing, when people say that, and I tell my group that too, when people say, well, you've changed, I always ask somebody and go, are you the same person you were a year ago? Right. And they're like, well, no. And I'm like, okay, so you and I are no different. It's just mine happen at a quickness.
And and the thing is, you've changed, and it's not a. I don't know. My belief is like this is not a bad thing.
No, everybody changes. That's the world. You know what I mean? Like everything changes, nothing stays the same. And so if we could accept that, there would be a lot less suffering in the world because that is the truth. Nothing stays the same.
No, I mean, everything. I mean, this is nothing. This is the nature of life. You know.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think, but it's so hard because I don't know. I didn't remember fully what it was to be me. What I mean by that is I didn't. The version of me in my head did not have any problems.
Right.
Was that, I don't know, like what was Beckett before the injury? Were you?
Oh, I was very social. I was very active in the community. I could do a lot, and that shifted, and I lost a lot of friends, and right because of that. It was like, well, again, 15 minutes of stimulation right after my injury, I couldn't do much. So you know what I mean. I couldn't see people, and if I would talk to somebody for 5 minutes, I was in bed for 5 days. Yeah, my recovery time was just ridiculous in the beginning. It's like I can barely just get out of bed and function without having to recover for a week. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? So I was a lot different that way. And I think now I'm a little introverted, extroverted. I've learned that I can be social, but there's a payment to that and I gotta rest and recover. And I enjoy my rest and recovery.
Yeah, that's, I don't know. I'm laughing because I had to learn that I'm an introvert.
Yeah, I did too.
Like, oh, I don't. I'm so exhausted, and
Hmm.
I did not enjoy all of that social interaction.
No, it was, I remember the speech therapist that I found that I worked with at the retreat, and I would say yes to everything. And then I'd feel bad because I couldn't do a quarter of it, and she's like, you've got to learn to start saying no. Like, you can't do what you used to do.
Hmm.
So that's why I said for me, it was a discovery of who am I now? You know what I mean? Like, who am I and what do
Hmm.
I like? And I don't, I didn't even really get into what do I enjoy and make me happy till now. And it's been 8 years since my injury. Like, I forgot to have fun. And we talked about this in my group at one point. It was like, I forgot how to have fun.
Well,
It,
because you're so focused I,
mm,
on getting back and
yeah,
being that person.
it's this. Yeah, it's just healing. It's like, okay, I'm dealing with this. How do I deal with this? Like for me, the first year was my physical problems. Like I would tilt to the left when I would walk. I couldn't judge distance, so I would slam my coffee cup down or something. The second year for me was all emotional.
Hmm.
Okay, I got my physical problems. My balance is off. Now I'm dealing with the emotional side of like, what happened to me? What does
Hmm.
this mean? Who am I? Like, so it was a lot of therapy. You know what I mean? There was definite stages, and whatever stage I was in, it was like that was it. That was my focus.
Hmm. And
You
that's
know,
and yeah, and yeah, because and I don't you don't have I'm like I don't you don't have time for fun in your mind.
no, no, I did that didn't even register to have fun. You know what I mean? Which is silly when I think about it now because right, like when you laugh and you have fun, that's essential to healing. But I had nobody around me to kind of pull me back, and I wasn't really in a support group per se that could be like, "Hey, have you thought about this?" Like, one of the topics I had for my group, which I came up one day I was doing a puzzle because I love puzzles now because they relax me and my brain can be focused. And I thought, you know what? Let's ask them what do they do for fun outside of their brain injury,
Hmm.
outside of rehab, outside of support groups. What do you do? And I thought they're going to think this is a dumb topic to talk about, but I'm going to put it out there. And it ended up being one of our most visited groups and one of the ones that people loved. And some people showed up and said, you know what? I just signed up to see what other people would say because I had no idea what I do.
Hmm.
Like, right? Nobody thought about like what do I do for fun? I would forget about the brain injury for 30 minutes.
Forget about your, and I know. Well, I'll say
Yeah.
healing because I don't want
Yeah.
to say
Yeah, no,
recovery.
yeah. Well, and you know what? Recovery works for some people. So I don't want to make it seem like that's a bad word. It's just for me, right? Recovery is like I'm not going there because this isn't I'm not recovering. I'm adapting and I'm thriving.
Well, no, and I no, I'm 100% with you because I think like something, the whole impetus for the book my memoir that I wrote was like trying to. I got the pacemaker, and
Mm-hmm.
so I finally have a normal heartbeat. I was like, I feel like a new person, and I was like,
Yeah.
I really want to work through my injury, and I want to love this person. Like there is a me that is constant, that is
Mm-hmm.
ineffable. There is this thing that there is a this person who has remained,
Mm-hmm.
but then there's a me that's gone. Is never coming back. If that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think it's when that's the grieving process, right? Like that's the side that you have to learn to grieve and let go of eventually, and I tell people now they'll say you're crazy, but I'm like, my brain injury was one of the greatest blessings of my life. And I get it that trust me, if you had asked me that on year 2, I didn't feel that way.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
if, yeah, if you would have asked me for the first 12 years of my recovery,
mhm,
this is a speed bump,
yeah,
is what I.
yeah. I mean, people say, how can you say that? I'm like, you don't understand. I went through a year of EMDR therapy and I went through my darkness and I grieved and I cried a lot. And there was a lot of times where I thought, I don't want to be here anymore. I don't want to live like this anymore. You know what I mean? And I just realized, right, our emotions are fleeting. They're 90 seconds and they may come one right after another, but they're not who you are. They're what you're feeling. And I would honor them and I would let them be. And if I needed to cry, I cried. If I needed to watch Netflix, if you could watch Netflix, if I just needed to just be, I did until, I just cried until I didn't need to cry anymore.
Mm.
And that is the grieving process. And it's a big deal. And I don't know one survivor that I've met that either knows how to deal with that or, realizes like, I have to go through that. Everybody just wants to skip it because let's face it, it's messy, it's ugly, it doesn't feel good, it's not fun. You know,
Just just get me to the point where I'm my old self again, and we'll be fine.
right, right. That's what everybody wants to do, and that's why I said when I'm talking to people, I know who didn't grieve because you're 11 years out and they're still crying. You know what I mean? Deeply emotional, and I feel that for them, and it's like, okay, I get it, but you can't skip that. You can't skip it. And it's a spiral. You're not going to heal like this. So it's not like, okay, I went through therapy and I'll never get sad about my brain injury again. No.
No, you can't because because your brain injury is also never going away.
Right. It's here. So just like your ego or anything else that you hear about in spiritual communities. So let's be friends. Let's figure out how
Yeah,
I can work with you. Right. Because you're not going anywhere.
yeah, you're not, and I think this is, I guess, and this is why I guess I'm very much sharing with your feelings on the word recovery because I feel like the recovery community makes my brain injury something else, not.
Yeah. It's like, right. It's you're broken, right? You're a stigma. And it's not like, we get a broken arm, they put it in a cast. Oh, it's healed, you've recovered, you're fine. But even there, your arm was broken. It's never going to go back to the bone it was when it was solid. Well, neither is your brain, but our brain is highly adaptable. So much more than our bones. So I still struggle with balance. Still to this day, I still, my brain can't. I've been trying to work out, and sometimes I can't get the movements, and they're simple movements. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? And it brought me to tears. I would say a month ago. I did a workout and I thought, okay, I'm going to do this. And I just realized my brain and my body are not communicating the way I thought they were. And I had a moment, you
Where you
know?
just I do this.
Yeah, I thought I was right. I thought I was way further along, that my brain was communicating a lot better than it was. And I realized in that moment it's not. And so, I cried and I did. I had a deep moment and I let myself feel it and I moved through it. Because I had the tools now to understand and how to grieve and how to understand and allow myself those moments and realize, okay, this is okay. I'm not going to beat myself up. I didn't call myself stupid. I didn't think you should be further along. It's been 8 years. I didn't do any of that. I went, okay, I'm not where I thought I was. Okay. I'll
and
just do it slower. I'll just work a little bit harder. I'll just practice a little bit more. That's okay.
and it's okay, and it would be okay if you were able to, but had to do
Absolutely.
a different version of it.
Yeah, I've had to
Yeah.
do that. I have to write things down, and people make fun of me all the time. They're like, "Oh my God, you have to write stuff down." I'm like, "It's how I remember stuff."
Now I have this all the time. Is like I was having a conversation today at church, and I was asking a guy like, hey, because we were talking, and I said, so the wife and I are looking to buy a house, and he's like, I'll pray for that, and I was like, you know what can I pray for you for? And he told me, and I
Hmm.
said, wait 1 second, and I was like, I want to remember what you told me.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that, and and that's the stigma, right? That society or anybody, when I see somebody now in a grocery store and they're maybe struggling to count money, you
Mm-hmm.
see people get upset and be like, "Oh my God, this is taking forever." And it's like, first of all, where are you running to? And second of all, I think, what is that person struggling with? Maybe they have a brain injury. Maybe they have a learning disability. I don't know, but I'm going to offer them the patience to work through it because where are we running to?
Yeah, yes, no, there's if you're familiar, there's a guy, Pete Holmes,
Mhm.
and he had this bit, where are you going? When
Yeah,
he was like when you're in traffic and somebody's just on your back or they're not, where are you going? Where is you?
Right. Like everybody's running, and one of my grandfather used to say, everybody's running to the grave. It's like, where are you running? It's like, it's patience, it's compassion. And I think, survivors are some of the most amazing humans. And that's why when I say that, people say, how can you say your brain injury was a blessing? I said, because I have met the most amazing humans on this planet who have been through hell and back, and yet are loving and supportive and encouraging, and
Mm.
you know what I mean? Like I could just go on, and I would have never met them, and I would have never done the work I'm doing if I didn't have a brain injury.
You're just so because that's I was just telling somebody who is trying to encourage me on here. I was like, this is the best community. Like, if you're
Hands
worried
down.
about sharing your story, don't be, because you have no idea how many people are just gonna come and wrap their arms around you and like love you so much.
Exactly. I mean, it's there isn't a time when I love meeting other survivors because it always touches my heart. It always touches, like, they're just amazing, amazing human beings. And I don't care I've seen from various disabilities. I've seen people in wheelchairs to, people like myself, right, who were what people say fully functioning as much as we are, and
Hmm.
there's downsides to both because I looked okay, people disregarded me.
Hmm.
When I was asking for help, people are like, you sound and look fine. Okay, but I'm not.
I have a lot of problems.
Right. It's like I'm struggling here with a lot of stuff. And it was a fight. I had to fight all the time to be heard, to be seen, to get the treatment I needed. And that's why I was like, look, if I can help anybody else not have to do that, the medical community just needs to learn a lot.
Abs- Absolutely, and I think it's the medical community has so much to learn. I think others have so much to learn, but I think it's like because I'm there too, and I give this quote all the time, especially on these lives. So I'm forgive me because it's just one of my favorites. Is Stephen Colbert to Anderson Cooper about the death of his dad and brothers. He lost his dad and two
Mm-hmm.
brothers in a plane crash, and he said to Anderson, "I am now most grateful for the thing I wish did not happen most."
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I'm gonna steal that because
Yeah, I mean,
the,
none of us wanted this. None of us asked for this. And, I'm only grateful that now in 2022, there's more exposure to it. There's more books out there, right? There's more IG accounts. Because, like I said, for me in 2014, there was nothing. There was, I found one group and they were talking about yoga and brain injury. And at the time when I reached out to them, I was like, I don't care about the yoga. I just care that you know something about brain injury, and like maybe you can help me figure something out here. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Because back then there just wasn't anything. So I love that, more awareness is coming because, right, no injury is the same. We're all different and we're all experiencing a different way. And my journey isn't better or worse than anybody else's. And I think we get that stigma too, that people think I'm 11 years out and I should be here. And I'm like, no, you're exactly where you should be. Because
mm-hmm.
I know people that had injuries that are doing things that after year one that I could never even think about doing.
Oh, absolutely. Uh,
Right?
I mean, people who are at a level that you're like, dang, I would like to be there.
Right. And it just wasn't in the cards for me. You know what I mean? And so comparing each other to each other's stories is fruitless. Right?
Mm-hmm.
It's wasted energy. It's what is the nuggets of gold I can pull out of this that maybe will help my healing journey and understand I'm healing at the rate I'm supposed to heal.
And and that's what I think and the hardest thing for all of us, and it's something that I still try to practice, is living today.
Yeah. Being in the now, and I went to school, and that's one of the things that happened here in Phoenix. I went to school and got certified in clinical mindfulness and, life coaching and stuff because it was like, okay, I'm doing this anyways. why not bring the certification so I can teach people? And we, and in my certification, we had to be like uber mindful. So you had to be present like all day, every day until it just now is instinctive. And it's
Well, you,
hard.
yeah, because
It's
some
hard.
moments you want to be in.
Right. And that's why now I have meditations, that I put on the YouTube channel for brain injury to do to understand like everybody has to take a shower. So if you can't be present always, be present while you shower. Or, be present doing something you love. And that's what I always tell my group is like, listen, pick something you already love. Why? Because it's easy to start there.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know what I mean? If you love being with your dog, if you love doing the dishes, if you love whatever it is, and just be mindful in that.
Just live in that moment entirely.
Right. And not like feel the water on your skin or feel how the sponge feels or, what does your dog sound like or what is it? Where are you outside? Like just be in that moment for however, 5 minutes. And because you already enjoy it, you're going to do it. It's going to just exasperate. And then you're like, oh, okay, I see how that is. So maybe now I can take this and work it over here to
Mm-hmm.
something I don't enjoy so much.
Yeah, and so that I can be present when I'm sad.
Right. Exactly. And that's the key. And once you have those tools, it's like then you know how to navigate. It's like, okay, I've been in these rough waters and they don't shake me so much anymore because I have the tools to how to navigate this.
Yeah, and to realize that those waters, those rough waters, will be calm again.
Absolutely. Right?
Yeah.
Nothing, just like the sun rises and sets, like, and I know it sounds cliche, but nothing will ever stick around. It will calm down. It may get rough again. And then I have survivors that go, okay, I thought I was over this, and then I'm back dealing with this. And that's why I always say healing is a spiral, it's not linear.
Mm.
So you may have dealt with that at that stage, and it's kind of like a video game. And that's what I tell them. I'm like, think of it like a video game. You get from level 1, you beat the monster at the end. Now you're at level 2, and maybe that monster beat you, but you don't go back to level 1.
Mm-hmm.
You may start at level 2 again. You know what I mean? So you're dealing with this problem from a different perspective.
Yeah, that you are. Yeah, that, and now you have tools from having
Right.
lost to that boss. You've
Right.
got knowledge
Right.
and
And so yeah,
experience.
you may be right. You might be back there, but you're not the same person. So it's not the same.
Yeah.
So you haven't slipped backwards, and they're like, okay, I get it. Like that's a refreshing perspective to think of because that is how healing goes, right? We go back to things and go, okay, maybe I can work on this a little bit more.
Yes. And that, and that, because we all just, I mean, because we think of life should be linear.
Right. Right. We always think I'm getting from point A to point B, and it's like, no, you're getting from A to B to C to, but it's a spiral. It's never a straight line. You're always going to come back to things that you still got to work on because we only work on it in pieces. Your brain can only handle that. It's kind of like why my brain doesn't remember my injury. It's too traumatic.
And there's no, yeah, and so your brain, yes, we can only take on, and so even if we have the same failure, the same thing that we have to work on, we're looking at it with a different lens, getting a different piece of it. So hopefully
Exactly.
we can get enough pieces that, you
Right.
know,
You eventually move through it, right? It's like me training my brain 5 years to sleep.
mm-hmm,
Every time I slid and I went back, I wasn't going back to the beginning because I've gotten it this far. I was just learning like, okay, my brain can only deal with so much at a time.
mm-hmm,
And that's where you realize how magnificent your brain really is, right? Like it's blocking my injury because it knows it's too traumatic and that's too much. And so we're going to shut that part down. And
mm-hmm,
it allows me now to work on other different parts of my healing because I don't have to deal with PTSD from my accident.
mm-hmm. You've gotten that.
Right.
That's that's glorious, and that absolutely, and I love all of that, and I want to, and we're gonna touch on the grieving here in a sec because I got two more questions. You've been
Okay.
so awesome, great, just insight and wisdom. But I always love to think about like if you could go back to you,
Mm.
right? That guy in the hospital who's just baseball bat sound that his head made.
Mm.
What would you say to him?
I think the greatest thing I would have said to him was just love yourself
Mhm.
and go easy on yourself. You're going to get through this. And I know right now it seems like you're not. And there's, because there was a time where I thought, I'm never going to get through this. I didn't see the light at the end of the tunnel, so to speak.
Mhm.
And I think, again, the pain was there, but make the suffering minimal.
Mhm.
Don't add suffering to this journey. And you'll find it'll be, you'll navigate this a lot better than you thought you would.
Mhm. Yeah, and yeah, because it's hard to see. I mean,
Oh yeah, you
um,
can't. You're dealing in such despair, and you can barely function. And it's like, how am I gonna? It's that. How am I ever gonna get through this? And I think trusting my body and understanding that your body is miraculous, your brain is miraculous, and it knows what it needs, and it knows what it needs to heal, and kind of getting out of the way sometimes and letting it do that. I fought resting. I fought. But
mm,
the speech therapist that I worked with at the one group would be like, you need to like just go in a quiet room, and I was like, no, I can. Right? I was creating more suffering instead of just realizing, yeah. And so finally I did it, and it was a game changer.
uh, absolutely. Is it's like because it's so hard because you're like I don't know. I had to work in my mind unhealthfully to recover, but then I had to work twice as hard,
Mm-hmm.
3 times, 4 times, 5 times as hard to try and be who I was before, and facing
That's
disappointment
exhausting.
the whole time. Yeah.
Right. Right. Well, and that's the thing, right? We're just creating more suffering. And that's why I think for me to pivot and go, okay, I want to discover who I am now. Forget who I was, right? Like let's mourn that, let's grieve it, let's get through that dirty, messy, and now who am I?
Yes.
You
Yes.
know, let me figure that out. And I had no expectations or preconceived ideas of who I was. I mean, there's stuff that I thought, oh, I used to like this, right? Because I can't taste or smell, so I can't taste food. You know what I mean? I can't, and it's like, well, I know I used to like that. You still have cravings, but I can't taste it. So it was the same way as a person. It was like, I know I used to like to do that. Do I still like to do it?
Exactly.
Sometimes it was a no.
Yeah. Sometimes it's like, no, that's actually not me at all anymore.
Right. You know what I mean? It's like I can let that go. And it was like, okay, well then that's fine. Let's find something you do like.
Yeah.
Right. And then it became fun because now there's endless possibilities. Now you're like a little kid. If you watch children, they're just always full of wonder and curiosity and always trying new things and and so that's how I looked at it. Like, okay, I have endless opportunities to figure out what I like. Who am I?
And figure out who you are.
Right. Let's
Yeah.
let's let's do that. Yeah, let's have fun with it. And again, I didn't really know what fun was, but it was like, well, if something intrigues me, let me go for this.
Yeah. Because who knows? Maybe this me likes it.
Right. Like puzzles were never my thing. I love them now. Like, love them. You know what I mean? They're just like, they're calming for me. They make my brain focus. They're just, it just is a great way to kind of relax for me.
See, that's awesome. And it's like, and by allowing yourself to not be the you of before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No judgment. You know what I mean? And it's like, okay, so now we like puzzles. Okay. Good to know. Now, what else can we try?
I love it. Yes.
Right.
Yes. Well, I always think, I always love to get this one. And we've touched on this. So
Okay.
you may not even have anything to say. You can just probably say, I already said it. You know.
Okay.
Because I mean, because like for me, I always want to talk about the grieving process because it was for me is the thing that really helped is my mom said it to me, but it didn't click when she said it. It took me
Mm.
a couple years after. But she's like, you've got to grieve who you were. Now, where are you in that process?
For me, I feel I'm pretty over it. You know what I mean? Like I've grieved pretty heavily. It's not like I said. It's not that I don't have moments like when I
Mhm.
was working out and I realized, oh, okay, my body isn't talking like it would, and so I had a grieving moment. But
Mhm.
they're very short now. You know what I mean? It was like I took a day and the night, the next day, and then I was like, okay, I'm done. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
so I think grieving who I was, I spent a good year and a half doing that.
Mhm.
You know, just really immersed in the grief.
Mhm. And sort of just working through that.
Yeah, working through that in my childhood, and and I know for me, right, because especially it can be, you don't cry, you don't do this, but I know when I have a good cry, and I whether it's a couple days, because some people will say, well, how long does that last? I don't know, it's different for everybody. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like it doesn't, I don't, and I don't know, but for me, it was like I can cry and cry and cry until I realize, okay, I'm done.
I've cried enough.
Right, like it's time to
Yeah.
get up. It's time to like, brush off my knees and start. It's ready to move on to the next chapter, whatever that is, because it's like I've grieved this and I've allowed it to happen.
Well, just letting that storm go through.
Right, without judgment. You know what I mean? Just like that day that and I posted about that on my own IG for TBI, and that was it was raw for me to post that,
Hmm.
in tears and being like, I have a moment. I can't do this workout, and I'm not dealing well with this. And a lot of people, it was super supportive, but it was super vulnerable. And I think that's what we're missing, right? Like nobody wants to. We all want to see the perfect pictures on Instagram or social media, and we all want to see like even survivors that are doing well. But what I try to tell my group and my team is like, you guys don't see me when I'm at home on the floor
Hmm.
crying. And so I share that more now in our group, and it gives space for them to share that.
Absolutely is, and I think the hard part is brain injury survivors. We really struggle, of course, to love this new person,
Yeah,
and so we're so scared to be vulnerable because we honestly can't take another punch,
right.
you know. And I think the thing that, and this is what I just try to say here on IG is like, again, that community. You have no worries. Because, oh, yeah, I mean, the first time I started talking about this, I was terrified, you
Yeah.
know.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you share your story, and you get terrified. But I've had people reach out to me that aren't even brain injury survivors, cancer patients, people dealing with other things, saying, you've really inspired me to deal with XYZ. Watching you navigate your brain injury and how far you've come, and I'm like, wow, really? Like, thank you. Like that was not even on my radar. You know what I mean? It was, but that's why I always tell people, you just don't know who's watching and who is saying, if that person can do that, then I can do that. I'm valid in what I'm feeling.
And I think what I guess I have realized that the whole point of this is for somebody to say me too.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Me too. You know what I mean? And you feel that when you walk into a room of brain injury survivors. We feel it at the retreats I would go to. That the first thing we did on the first night was share our stories. And they
Mm.
always had me lead. And in the beginning, I was like, why is it always got to be me? Because I would come back to the other retreats and it's a new group. And it was like, oh my God, like, why do I always have to lead? And it was
Mm.
like, and they shared with me and they said, we have you lead because you create a space of vulnerability we've never seen.
Hmm.
And you share from that. And it's like, I just don't know how to be any other way. You know what I mean? And it's like, if I can tell somebody I'm scared sharing this, but I'm going to share it anyways, I know somebody else is feeling that.
Yeah. And then they're going to gain the confidence to share.
Yeah. And I get it. Not everybody, right? That's not their thing. That's not their thing to be on social media. It's not their thing to share, and that's fine too.
Yeah.
And you don't have to, because there's plenty of us who do. It's for the quiet person that's sitting in maybe the side, the corner of the room that doesn't want to speak out but wants to feel seen.
Absolutely. But I will encourage, my
Hmm.
thing is, I will encourage everyone, if they can, to share, not even for other people, but for yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I can't, you're right. I mean, to be able to express that story, and that's why that's something we did the first night. It created this instant bond of, 50 strangers who don't know anything. And we do it in my group. If a new person comes, they share their story, and the group
Mhm.
shares their story because I don't know how it's transformational for the person to speak it, to
Mhm.
release it, and it's transformational for others to hold space and hear it
Mhm.
and just be able to say, I see you.
Yeah,
And I love you and I care for you just exactly the way you are, and that's it.
which is everything.
It's profound, right? I mean, that's every human on this planet. I don't care if you've had a brain injury or not, wants to be seen, wants to feel heard, and wants to feel loved.
And I think it's so hard because we spend so much of our healing process not loving ourselves.
Right. And that's, and I close my group and tell them this all the time and say, listen, congratulate yourself. And that's the other thing, is we don't celebrate. You showed up to this support group for you.
Mm.
And yes, you're here for others, but that is a big self-care that you took for you. And you should be
Mm.
proud of yourself for loving yourself that much to do that.
Absolutely. To
Right?
take that big of
Right. I mean, even to do with the work you're doing and to show up on IG and be doing this, like, that's self-care. There's self-care and connection with other survivors. And I think, we're taught all the time of the things we can't do, but we're not reminded enough of all the things we still can do.
yes. Yes. And well, in that, I think when you start figuring out what you can do, you get to see yourself beyond your
Yeah.
ability. Because
Yeah.
something that somebody helped me realize is like the way that we view our healing process or recovery of like gaining abilities is a total factor of ableist society to
Yep.
put our value in what things I am able to do.
Oh, totally. And the thing is, right, you're not your injury. That's something that happened to you.
Mm-hmm.
That's not who you are. And yet we're defined by it greatly. And that was a topic we just had in my group this week of self-identity. How do you define yourself? How now, past your brain injury? Like, let that go. Let that title go. Like, that's not who you are. It's something that happened to you. And yes, it
Mm-hmm.
affects your life, but there's whole other parts of you that have nothing to do with that.
And that's why I always go for a song that I found after my injury that I was just like, I'm freaking stealing this. This is this is mine.
Right.
It's a song. The chorus is, "You may break my bones, but you'll never break me."
Mhm.
And and then once I saw that, like I said, there is a me that is outside of my injury.
Mhm.
There is this me, this person, this ineffable, unexplainable me. My injury happened, and that's
Mhm.
there, but there's this person under there,
Yeah.
and nothing's gonna break that person.
Yeah.
You know, and which is, but it's great. That you talk about self care. A lot of those moments came from sharing.
Absolutely, right? And you learn from other people. That's how I learned, that my healing journey was all self-discovery. It was all on my own. There was no
Mhm.
medical team, and then it was like, I got to figure this out, and this is the way I know to do it. And ask. ask people, talk to people, learn from people, and I tell, even people I work with in my group, what worked for me may not work for you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
All I'm saying is
Yeah.
try things until something sticks.
Yes.
Be
Yes.
open to it because you never know where your healing can come from. And if you're closed off, you're limiting yourself.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. I, I'm just snaps.
Right. And and sometimes we need permission. We need to hear that. You know what I mean? And that's something that's why I've brought different practitioners and people into my group to speak to them, to give them ideas, because it's like, sometimes we got to have someone to say that and say, yes, it's okay for you to be open and try different things and for things not to work.
Yes.
That's
And
life.
yeah, that happens in everything else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So same thing with your healing. And it might not work now. It might work 5 years from now.
But at least you're going to be trying and figuring it out.
Right. I mean, for me, I couldn't do, like, for instance, I couldn't do guided meditations. I hated them, like, right after my injury, and then I got certified in them. You know what I mean? But it was like,
And
I hated
you were
them.
like, then you were like, this is amazing.
Right. And so now,
But
years later, I don't have a problem with it.
but it took you a long time.
Yes. It took,
What?
it's right. It's just practice, and it's just being open and just realizing, I can't do this thing right now, but I might be able to do this thing 3 years from now. I don't know.
Yeah. And I need to allow myself to not be able to do it.
Right. Give myself the opportunity, give myself grace. And that's the thing we don't do. People are like, oh, I feel like I'm at year 3 and I should be here. And I'm like, why?
Mm.
Who told you
Yeah.
should be there? Right? Like, who said that should be there? Like, if you're not there, you're not there.
Yeah. And that's okay.
It's more than
Yeah.
okay. Keep practicing, keep trying. Who knows? You may, like, people always used to tell me, oh, your taste will come back in year 5. Don't worry about it. Well, it's year 8. It hasn't come back.
Mm-hmm.
Do I still eat? Yes.
Yeah.
Do I, you know, will it come back? I don't know. If it does, great. I have moments of taste that come back, but
Uh,
I don't focus on it.
yeah, because you can't. And
Right.
you also can't. I don't know. My thing is, you don't know where you will be, and that's okay. You know.
Exactly. I mean, I know people that, were told they'll never walk again who are walking
Mm-hmm.
with crutches. You know what I mean? I know survivors that were told they'd never be above a fourth grade education and they graduated with an associate's degree from college. You know what I mean? It's just, I always tell people, find somebody that's doing what you want to do. Like, when I had really rough days, I would look to the other survivor friends that I met who had it much worse than me, but were still just doing it, practicing, going, and they always lifted me up because I thought, look at them,
Yeah.
right? They have it worse. They're having to do this, and yet they're still trying. So I'm good. I'm going to keep trying. Like, I don't
I
know
think.
what'll happen. The time will keep passing, but I'm going to keep trying.
Yeah. And then I'll get to there.
Right. And
Yeah.
even if I don't, I don't care. I get a little bit better.
Yeah. And you grow, and I think not having a there
Right.
is very helpful.
It is. I mean, goals, people are like, so what do we do with goals? And something I learned was, do things by time, not by to-do list.
Mm.
Because it's very self-defeating to write a to-do list for a brain injury survivor, and then you can't accomplish a lot of it.
Mm.
And now you're in that spiral of, look at me, I didn't get this done, right? It's all negative, negative, negative. Whereas if you just say, I'm going to do something for 30 minutes and I'm going to take a 15-minute break, and then I'm going to do something for 30 minutes and take a 15-minute break, you'll find you'll actually get more done,
Mm.
and your brain is resting, and there's no expectations, so there's no disappointment.
Mm. Yeah, and you still love yourself.
Right, because you think, you know what? Look what I did. I did this. today, or I did this. And, you know, the idea that it took you whatever, an hour or 2 hours, doesn't matter. You're more elated that look what I did. And maybe yesterday I could only read a page of a book, but today I read two,
Yeah,
you
which
know?
is, yeah. And then because, yeah, we set ourselves up to be just like other people,
Yep.
even though we're not.
Even though we're not. And we all forget it, you know? And I think that's where support groups and having your brain injury tribe is great, right? Because they're a
Mm.
great reflection. I mean, there's something I went through and I'm like, I don't understand why I'm tired. And my own group was like, oh, I don't know, because you've had a brain injury and you don't have the energy. And I was like, thank
Fair.
you. Right. Well, right. Because thank you for reminding me of what I know, but I also forget too, because I'm human.
Oh yeah, and it's like, you have to think like, why can't I do what everyone else is doing at the same level?
And I'm meant to.
Well, they don't have brain injuries.
Well, right. But even if you take the human population without brain injuries, not everybody can be a top athlete.
Oh yeah,
You know what I mean? And I think as a society, we're created to compare, right? And then put ourselves down when we don't meet up to those expectations.
mm.
And so the brain injury community kind of grabs onto that, you know, and it thinks, no, like we automatically wake up with a half a battery every day. That will happen for the rest of our lives.
Yeah,
So let's not try to pretend that we are gonna, you know, have a ton of energy like everybody else. We're just not, but we can adapt and we can thrive.
yes, even with that lower energy.
Absolutely. And we can
Yeah,
still do great things and we can still enjoy life. And it's
mm.
just at a different capacity. And that's okay.
Yeah, and we can still have a glorious life.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, that's yes, 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 yes. Because that's that's the thing is I think like my life is not what I expected,
Oh, yeah.
but it's better.
Exactly. I mean, it's not what I expected either, but like I said, I wouldn't change a thing. I mean, and people say, really? Like, you wouldn't go back and change her? And I'm like, I wouldn't. I
Mm.
wouldn't. I honestly wouldn't because I've grown as a human being. I have more compassion, more love. And like I said, I get to meet survivors that are just amazing human beings.
Mm.
And that, you know, and I see people who don't have, you know, brain injuries who come in like to fundraisers and meet people and are just brought to tears because they're like, I don't have anything to be upset about. And, you know, you guys have everything to be upset about. And yet you're some of the most happiest, giving, loving people I've ever met.
Hmm. And yeah, because they've learned where you can actually find joy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, and it comes from within and it's not on the outside and it's not by what you can do. And it's,
Mm.
you know, it's all allowing yourself to just be joyous and happy with whatever it is that makes you joyous and happy.
Yeah. Well, this is glorious. Uh, but well, because before I roll out the red carpet, because I always want to roll out the red carpet.
Yes.
Yes, this is Becky, this has been a phenomenal interview. Thank you for your insights and wisdom. I want to know for you, is there any final thoughts? Anything that you haven't said because you've said so many wonderful things.
I don't know. I mean, I just thank you for doing what you're doing, and thank you for being one of those survivors out there who's shedding a light on this because it there's you know it's so needed, and there's such a huge demand out there, and there's only so many of us,
Mm.
and I know we struggle with it, right? There's few of us, like even my IG, I had to take a break because it was like okay, and then the other community's like, well, where are you?
Mm.
You know what I mean? And I think we have to be the epitome. We have to be the example. And that's what I try to live by is be the example you want to see in the world. You know?
Oh, oh, yeah, and thank you for saying that. And of course, we of course got to. And I think it's like I had to. I know this semester was really hard. I had to take a little bit of a break.
Yeah.
I'm not posting like I used to. you
And
know.
that's important to show people the self-care part. You know what I mean? To understand and give each other grace, to understand, like, when we say it's important to self-care, for those of us that are out there trying to be advocates and speak, like, if we disappear for a little while or we go, it's because we're doing self-care.
Hmm.
You know, we're not
And,
just telling you that, we're doing it.
yeah, and I maybe could juggle 6 plates at one point,
Hmm.
but I got 2 or 3 right now.
I give you credit. I can juggle about two, and that's it.
Yeah, but you know what I mean. But it's like,
Yes.
yeah, because I go, I had to say like, okay, I have to put you down for a second, Instagram.
Right.
You know, I
Yeah.
can't do daily posts.
It's a lot. Social media is a lot, and it's meant to be a lot. And
Mm.
you know what? You have to know that, and you have to be mindful of the ways you use it. And I always have. Like, I follow people that inspire me, are doing stuff that I want to do,
Mm.
and I take breaks from it. I do. I shut it off. I turn off my notification. I don't have my notifications on for social media, and that's a purpose.
Yeah, just to give yourself a little break. Let's see.
Hmm.
Like, can you hear me? Okay, good. You
I can hear you.
there was a circle around your head, so okay, good.
Yeah,
Uh,
I think IG's getting ready to, like, because they circled you too.
okay, good. They're ready to shut this down. Okay, well,
Right.
well then I want to thank you. I'm going to roll out the red carpet. But thank you for a glorious interview. I want to make sure to roll out the red carpet for you so that we all know, Beckett, how can we follow you? How can we stay in touch with you? What do you got going on? Where can we see what you're doing?
Yeah, I mean, you can follow me at TBI Thrivers, which I think you tagged on this on IG,
Mm,
and on there you'll find links in the profile to. I have a TBI support group I run every Monday. We bring, new healers in there to experience, so people can try different hypnotherapy,
mm.
medical intuitive nutritionists, and I'm getting ready to work on. Well, I am working on actually a online course. I have one already out there with a nutritionist for TBI survivors, but
Oh,
I'm getting
awesome.
ready to do another one that's going to be walk you through the grieving process and be self-guided and do it your own pace, but really be effective to give you tools to navigate that part.
Awesome. So everyone who's watching this right now, make sure you're following TBI Thrivers.
Yes.
Hit up all those links in the
Yeah, the
profile.
links are they're in the profile, and I'll have every update. You'll see updates on TBI Thrivers, so it's easy. I try to make it very streamlined and easy for everybody.
That's awesome. Well,
Thank
and
you.
thank you for everything you're doing. You're doing glorious, glorious work. And thank you so much. And I will be messaging you for how to get part one,
Okay.
so we can get that up there. But Beckett, thank you so much. I really appreciate the interview. It was glorious.
Thank you. I appreciate it too. And you have a good day.
You have a glorious one. Thank you.
All right, my friend.
All right, take care.
Bye.
Bye.